All right, so we're just about done here. However, there's one or two more things we want to do just to clean this all up. Right now, when we're auto-saving, we're using the VS Code plugin for us to auto-format. However, in the future, if anybody else comes across our repository, they might not have the VS Code auto-formatter on. So we want to give users a way to format their code so it matches the styles that we use. So we have Prettier, the extension installed. We can also add Prettier as a Node.js module that can tell other users who don't have a VS Code exactly how to format both their JavaScript and the Solidity. There's a Prettier plugin Solidity located here. There will be a link to it in our GitHub repo. And if we scroll down, we can see how to install it with npm install --save dev, which again, we're just going to use yarn. So we're going to do yarn add Prettier and then Prettier plugin Solidity. So we're installing both Prettier and the Solidity plugin for Prettier. And if we check our package.jsons, we can see that these two have been added. And what we can do now is we can create a new file called .prettier rc. And in this file, we can define some little curly braces in here. We can define what we want for both our Solidity and for our JavaScript. So for example, our simple storage has a tab width of 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 spaces. Maybe we want to change that. Maybe we want tab width to be 2. So we would save it here. We'd come back to simple storage, save it here, and it would get auto-formatted to our .prettier rc. So in our settings here, we have the default editor for Solidity, our Hardhat Solidity plugin, and the default formatter for JavaScript being the Prettier VS Code one. When we add Prettier RC in here, this file will take precedent over the default configuration. So long as we have downloaded the module in our node modules, which we can see it right here, and we have this .prettier RC file. I'm going to keep the tab with 4, so we're going to update it to that. One thing that we currently do have that I do not like is these semicolons at the end. So we're going to do semi false. And I'm going to save this, come back to deploy, hit save, and you'll see the semicolon automatically goes away. I'm also going to add use tabs false, since I want to use spaces or spacing, and then single quote false. This way we'll always use a double quote instead of a single quote. In JavaScript, you can actually use a single quote or a double quote to define strings, but we're going to make it so that no matter what quote you use, it'll always be double quote. And then for all your open source repos and for all your projects that you make, you want to make a readme.md. Readme files are generally where people put instructions or information about your project or anything like that. This way, whenever anybody comes across your project, they'll know what it's about. Your readme.mds are Markdown Syntax again. Remember how when we made that trial discussion, we used some interesting tips to format our Solidity and our code here? Well, that formatting process is the exact same for .md files, for Markdown. They're both going to use Markdown. In fact, if we hit Control-Shift-V, you'll enter preview mode for the Markdown. You'll see # here in my preview of the Hardhat. This Ethers simple storage FCC is huge and looks like a heading at the top. So Command-Shift-V to view your .md files, or it might be Control-Shift-V for Windows and Linux users.